Hey guys, my name is Olivia Dixon and I'm obviously taking the same British literature course here with you guys at ETSU. So I think after we go back and watch these videos, it'll be pretty cool to kind of match faces with names as to who's responding on our discussion boards. But anyway, I'm just going to talk about metaphysical poetry and a few different things about it, like its characteristics, the meaning of the word itself, choose a poet that does portray metaphysical poetry, the background of the author, and sort of just summarize and explain the poem itself. So I'll just go ahead and get started. So as our professor, Miss Childress, said, if you actually break down the word metaphysical poetry, meta means after, so metaphysical literally means after physical. And I was actually kind of confused by itself because I'd heard different meanings of it, but I'd never really had the chance to study it. I took a poetry and literature class my senior year of high school as an elective, and that was the main topic that we were supposed to focus on, the last 2 weeks of school. Well, we got kind of crunched on time and we didn't really get to discuss it, so we just sort of swept it under the rug and never really talked about it. But once I had started to actually research the term and find examples of it, it was much easier to really dig in and actually start the assignment, because I was very hesitant on talking about something that I was very nervous about, I guess, just because I didn't know it. So I guess you would say I was very nervous about the term of metaphysical because it's so big, but it's also sort of intimidating having to talk about something in person that you're not very comfortable with and you're not familiar with it. But once I researched it a lot and I understood it, it really wasn't that bad or that difficult to comprehend and really grasp the overall concept of it. But in my own words, I would define metaphysical poetry as being very complex, but these poems, they also contain different forms of humor. So some of them have puns, and if you're kind of just reading or scanning over it, you're not really going to catch them. So they also consist of hidden questions. So some of the bigger ones would be is our life predetermined? Are we just sitting here waiting for the next big thing to happen? Another big question would be, does God even exist? And I know different religions have different beliefs, but a lot of people say that they have proof of God's existence because of miracles. And I know people believe different things, but that's just one of the main questions that have been asked. But it's not just defined through religion. There's a broad variety, actually, consciousness, the future, perception, and even different emotions. So the poets, they're really more interested in breaking the emotions down instead of just what's laying out for everyone to read. They really try to get to the root of why people feel that way and just dig even deeper as to why they would even write it into the poem. So actually, depending on the different poems by the group of metaphysical poets, they're actually more complicated than others because of their content and their thought. They dig deeper than, like I said, just those laying out emotions that are just there for anyone to read. And like I said, they really want to get to the underlying problems and causes, and of course these hidden questions. And I think that's really the main theme of the metaphysical poets in general. So to really get started, the metaphysical poet that I chose was John Donne. John Donne is really the overall founder and leader of the metaphysical poets. I'm sure a lot of other people will research and focus on John Donne because he was really the first thing that popped up whenever I searched it. But I think if other people focus on other poems, it'll kind of be interesting to see if they correlate with the one that I chose. But other poets that are metaphysical, that focus on metaphysical poetry, like John Cleveland, George Herbert, Andrew Marvell, and obviously there are others that I'm sure you guys have found too. But John Donne was born in 1572 in London, England, and he was born into a Roman Catholic family. So obviously religion was a very important aspect in his life, but I'm also almost positive that religion is where he really got his inspiration for all of his poems. So most of his pieces were written in the 1590s. That was after his education at Oxford and Cambridge, and then he actually went to Lincoln's Inn and studied law, but he didn't even obtain a degree. So I thought it was interesting that he really did what he overall wanted to do with his life. He went to school for all those years, but then ended up going back into poetry and things like that. So John Donne's poem that I chose was The Good Morrow. So The Good Morrow was published in 1633, and not that all poems rhyme. This one doesn't, but people can also refer to this as a sonnet. So all sonnets are poems, but not all poems are sonnets. And I was kind of confused, so I looked deeper into it. So a sonnet is like a subcategory of a poem. So sonnets are 14 lines and poems are 21 lines, which now that makes sense. But The Good Morrow is a poem. It is 21 lines. So I'm actually going to just read the poem so that everyone can understand where I'm coming from later on when I discuss it, and that will also just make it a little easier whenever I refer to it and point out exactly where I'm at in the poem. So I will go ahead and read The Good Morrow by John Donne. It says, I wonder by my troth what thou and I did till we loved, were we not weaned till then, but sucked on country pleasures childlessly, or snorted we in the seven sleepers' den. 'Twas so, but this all pleasure fancies be. If ever any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, 'twas but a dream of thee. And now good morrow to our waking souls, which watch not one another out of fear. For love, all love of other sights controls, and makes one little room and everywhere. Let sea discoverers to new worlds have gone, let maps to other worlds on worlds have shown. Let us possess one world, each hath one and is one. My face in thine eye, thine in mine appears, and true plain hearts do in the faces rest. Where can we find two better hemispheres, without sharp north, without declining west? Whatever dies was not mixed equally, if our two loves be one, thou and I. Love so alike that none do slacken, none can die. So, to start off, the overall theme of The Good Morrow is love, period, and a celebration in every aspect of it. Wondering what they did before they met without each other. So, I'll kind of just summarize what all is going on in each stanza. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it. So, the first two lines of the poem say, I wonder by my troth what thou and I did till we loved, were we not weaned till then. So, this sort of means, what did the two do with themselves before they met and fell in love with each other? Had they not lived before they met? This was following a night spent together, and it sparks something in him. It's like, he means that the two had not lived at all, like I said, basically before they fell in love. The Seven Sleepers' Den is actually the story of a group of youth who hid inside a cave outside the city of Ephesus around 250 AD in order to escape a religious persecution, and they emerged some 300 years later. John Donne uses this to compare that to his love for his woman. Like they had been in a deep sleep or deep slumber their entire life, and they woke up, and it's like life was completely different because they had met each other and fallen in love. It's like they had been in a deep sleep for 300 years. But it's like those people who escaped, it's like they woke up and realized that they were just meant to be together. In the second stanza, it says, and now good morrow to our waking souls, which watch not one another out of fear. It's as if they're like I said, waking up from their deep sleep, just glaring at each other out of curiosity. Like, what happened? just because they wanted to. They weren't worried about what had happened. They were just sort of living in the moment. And finally, in the third stanza, they gaze into each other's eyes out of curiosity. They're able to see each other in each other's eyes. So when they look at each other, they can see their reflection. So it's really not just about lust and physical attraction. It's actually true love. So he's purely attracted to her for beauty, inside and out, and as a person, and not just by her physical appearance. So that was a good morrow. So I'm excited to see your all's take on different poems. So thanks.